All right, episode 56 coming into your earbuds right now. So, time. We talk a lot on this show about time and how valuable it is and how it's the one commodity you just can't make more of. You can't create more than 24 hours in a day. It's set. So think about the number of times and hours that we're going back and forth answering email. We want those clients to come to us for our website, but we're tweaking our websites and we're doing all that work. But now the hard work comes. Answering the email. Let's connect with that client. Let's offer them an amazing experience. Emails back and forth. Now we booked the client. Now they need a questionnaire. Now we need something else from them. We're spending all our time doing those same things over and over and over. And we're losing some valuable time with our family and friends, or adding value to our clients by what we bring by having that personal touch. Automation, my friends. Automation. Systems, my friends. Systems. Let's put things in place that help us have a workflow that gives us back a couple hours a day, if not more. We all do the things that we love to do, but things are out of our scope of genius. So let's hone in and concentrate on the areas that bring value to our clients and that client experience. And let's bring a client experience to our clients through automation and systems. Automation and systems, you guessed it. That's our topic today. This is the Be Fabulous Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Be Fabulous Podcast. Episodes full of candid conversations that speak to the hard truth that it takes more than hustle and luck to be your own CEO. Being a creative entrepreneur and running a business is not at all like the glam that you see on Instagram or reality TV. The truth is, it's showing up every single day, putting in the blood, sweat, and yes, lots of tears. Oh, do not forget all the hard work. I'm your host, Bobby Brinkman, photographer, coach, speaker, wedding industry educator, diet Mountain Dew addict. You see why, right? I am hitting the pause on that hustle and luck myth button because it's more than getting a really cute website and hanging a now open sign. Not just waving the magic wand so that all the success, money, and clients will just be lined up, ready to hire you. Hope is not a business strategy, my friends. And along with my guests, the goal of our podcast is to motivate, educate, and celebrate creative entrepreneurs discussing topics and information that will help you get and keep you in that CEO mindset through our candid conversations. You're going to hear stories from other creatives at different stages along their career journey. They'll be sharing the same struggles you have, as well as business insights, tools, and foundations that they have in place to keep their businesses moving forward, no matter what kind of SHIT tries to knock you off your career path. I want to challenge you to unapologetically keep showing up to attract your ideal clients, serve them in the most fabulous way while collecting a purpose-driven paycheck. I want to empower you to create a career that you not only love and are proud of, but also one that your clients love and will support even more. Now let's get started. All right, listeners, welcome back to episode 56. And today we are talking about time. So I want to take this moment to thank you for spending your time with me as always. It's a privilege I never take for granted. So today's guest, she's a beautiful lady. She's a beautiful woman sitting across from me on Zoom here. And I'm super grateful that she had some time for us today. You'll hear her mention and you'll hear me mention, you can do big things, beautiful girl. And you deserve good things, beautiful girl. These are just the start of our guest today. Let me tell you a little bit about Dahlia Orth. She started her business journey, like many of us, as a photographer. And she loved being a photographer, and she couldn't believe that she was living the life of her dreams because she was capturing all these beautiful moments for everybody. And then, like a lot of us, we fall headfirst into doing what we love, and we let the business go aside a little bit, and we grow fast. Soon enough, she was overwhelmed, and she felt like she could not keep up with everything that was going on behind the scenes in her business, and she started questioning the why she started her business to begin with. Why did she want to be her own CEO? Why did she want to be a photographer in the first place? It wasn't so she could spend all her time on the admin side and doing paperwork. It was so that she could capture these moments. She knew that things needed to change. She knew that she always dreamt of a life of traveling the world, and if things were going to continue the way they were going, she would never be able to step away from her business. So she knew she needed to make that shift. She knew she needed to make a change. She chose to do this by becoming a virtual assistant. And she realized that there are so many photographers as well as other creatives that shared her same pain points, had similar dreams that she did, and that they knew if they didn't make a change, they would become overwhelmed and burn out. And she wants to be the person and that talented voice in your head to let you know that you can make these changes and that you too can set systems in place so that you can have the life that you dreamed of and that you deserve. And that you can still be a photographer or a wedding planner or interior designer without all the extra stress and the things that overwhelm us on the admin side. So as she was learning all these systems and how to become more efficient, she grew and started the System Strategy Academy. Her time as a photographer and a VA has shaped her business, and she doesn't want anybody else to experience some of the things that she walked through. Now, I think she shares a lot about me that you have to learn things as you go, so you might stumble once in a while. But I'm telling you, Dahlia's offering you a big net, a big safety net to fall into. She knows that she can help you do things differently, and she doesn't want you to wait to set up a CRM system or automate a system until it's too late. She wants you to start now so that you, if you're just beginning or you're growing, you're ready to go. Let's get started building that system. Let's get started with getting your systems in place. Let's get started to get you back on track to do what you love, serving your couples, serving your clients, and living the life that you deserve. That's what we're talking about today. I'm super excited to have Dahlia here. We're going to dive right in and talk more about systems and automation and how she can get you on the right path to falling back in love with what you love to do. Be right back. All right, listeners, as promised, we are talking all about systems and making your life so much better today. As you heard in the intro, we have Dahlia here. And let me tell you guys, in the first 15 minutes of me chatting with her before coming on the show here, I'm already in love with this girl. And because I wish you could see her. Maybe this is one time I like to do video. She's just got that bubbly energy. You're going to want to connect with her. You're going to want to work with her. She's doing some amazing, fabulous things, guys. And so I'm super excited to bring her to you guys with your topics. And I think at the end of this hour, you're going to walk away some great takeaways. Make sure you stay to the end because she does have a special that I'm going to connect you guys up with in show notes. But without further ado, welcome to the Be Fabulous Podcast, young, beautiful lady.
Thank you, Bobby. It's so great to be here. I'm so excited, and it's such a joy. I can't wait to dive in with you all about systems. Oh, it makes me so excited.
Exactly. See, do you hear that, guys? Somebody's excited about systems. Raise your hand in your room if you're all going, oh my God, no way, no way. So a little bit about you is your business journey actually started from being a photographer. And like probably many photographers, you got going into this, and oh my gosh, you were so good at it. What happened? You got busy. Then, like many of us, you couldn't be a photographer anymore without doing all the other 9 to 5 and everything else. And so the joy kind of went away, right? So
Sure.
You decided to do what, knowing it couldn't stay the same. You did go a little bit different route. Before we get to systems, how did you know you needed to make a shift?
So that's a great question. My journey, I think, is a non-traditional one from most business owners. I came from a full-time ministry position. And so I became a photographer while I worked in that role. And I was very administrative, very hands-on. And I also did photography because I was like, I need to make some extra money. And so that's how my business came to be. But then my business started to grow. And then I was introduced to the virtual assisting world. And I was like, I could do both, because, photography has ebbs and flows. And even in this season right now that we're in, it took a dip. And so I still became a VA, and I still had income coming in that way. And so I realized that through being a virtual assistant and a photographer, what happened is my business started to grow so much that I was just becoming overwhelmed really quickly. I was like, this is insane. I did not get into business ownership for this. We all get into it for this freedom and flexibility we desire. And it was gone. I was like, something's got to change. And so this past 6 months, I have really taken a specialized approach towards systems because I did it for my business, and it allowed me, I kid you not, to hop on a plane to Belgium last December to the Christmas markets with my friends because I could go on a whim. I was like, okay, I have all my stuff set up in my business. My clients are taken care of. We are good to go. And that was like my moment, where my full circle moment, where I was like, oh my goodness, like everybody needs to experience freedom like this. But it did require some work behind the scenes. And so that's why I became so passionate now about talking about systems and how that can help and setting yourself up for success with that.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head right there. It's like, here you are at Christmas time, and most photographers are so busy scheduling mini sessions, Santa sessions, whatever kind. We have photographers that are not just wedding here. So everybody that's a photographer, and we do have other creatives that listen in. So I think it's that way, even if you're a hairdresser or if you're a dress shop owner. Oh my gosh, I got to get those 7 or 8 weeks of business. I can't take off. And for most people to have a retail brick and mortar, I think that's how it goes. But we as photographers, we're like real estate people a lot. After the couple comes to a wedding or a session, we have to start all over again with marketing.
Yep.
So how do you ever get done with that? And like you said, you go overwhelmed. It also will hurt you as a photographer because you're not finding the joy in being a photographer because you're so worried about the back end. So I think that was a perfect segue into, you made the change because you needed to see the change, and you didn't wait for a magic pill to make it happen. You dove in. So for those listeners that are listening in, let's start at that diving in portion. You knew you needed a system. Maybe explain what a system is, and then talk about some different systems. And we'll talk mostly about photographers. Photographers here, we're going to kind of really touch base with you guys on this episode, but I think other listeners listening in. So tell us about systems and exactly what they are by your definition.
Sure. So I will say too, that like, what I am going to speak on a lot today too, while my experience was as a photographer, I have found that it has worked across multiple industries.
Yep.
And that's what I'm really excited to talk more about later in the episode, is that, like you said, Bobby, it's not just exclusive to photographers. Yes, we have different pain points and different areas of our business that become overwhelming really quickly. But a system, in my opinion, is honestly, it's just like your behind the scenes, like almost like the foundation you have to set for all the essentials in your business. So you think about, like, you have to send invoices, you have to send contracts, you have to send, emails back and forth with your clients. Like, those are very essential things that go into running a business. And if you just try to run yourself in multiple areas, what you find is you're overwhelmed quickly because it's not all in one place. So a system allows you to have all those things in one place, or at least the majority of those things in one place, like a Honeybook or a Dubsado or a Tave, because they have features set up in a way that allows you to just, I say, it always has to house your essential documents. So you can put all your invoice templates, you can put all your email templates, you can put all your contract templates. And sometimes I say with people and they're like, that sounds too good to be true. And I'm like, yeah, but it actually exists. And so that's what I would say, in my definition, it's just a place to house all of your essentials that honestly gives you back more time, because once you do the heavy lifting behind the scenes of getting it into the system, it's really just a few click of a buttons, and you find that, like, you're not spending the hours behind the computer like you normally would sending all of your correspondences to your clients and everything like that.
Well, and that's because I think as business owners, and we try here on the show to remind everybody to have that CEO mindset. CEO people get people, and I use the word get with quotation marks, have people to do these things because their strong suit is the value that they bring to their client, the things that they can do to get the yes question, all the other things. Email's important. Having a website that converts to get them to contact is important. But we as the CEO, our job is to do all the things to get them to like us, to go there first. So you touched on this about, we put them all in one place. So before we dive too deep, I am now overwhelmed that you just told me I have all these things in one place. What if I don't even know what all these things are? And now I'm scared that they're all in one place. What happens if that crashes or things happen? But what is it that I'm needing to put in one place?
Yeah. So, when I talk with people, usually the way that I work with them is, I always say, because you're right, a system could fail on us, right? And a system has its limitations. I always say you have to go with the mindset of, it's not going to do everything I want it to, but it's going to do most things I want it to do. And so I always advise that when you have your templates, because a big part of a system is getting templates in place so that you can set up your workflows and your automations. And it's a very interesting psychology behind the words workflow automations versus like a system. And so it's really just having, like, I would say having that all on a Google Drive. So when I coach my my clients on systems and I say, hey, we're going to set up your system, I always say, put all of your stuff in a Google Drive and then I will take it over into your system. So that way they do have a separate spot for it all to go, or even like a Dropbox or some kind of like cloud platform, or even just on your computer that you have like a master file or on your hard drive, so that you don't lose any of that stuff. Because the thing is too, like, it's going to ebb and flow as your business grows. Right. So you're going to have to change those templates out. Maybe you like realize you'll set up a system and you're like, I don't love this system. And so instead you have to change to another one, but you don't want, like, let's say you cancel your subscription and you can't get back into the system. Well, then you lose all your templates, right?
Exactly.
So my advice, is definitely to have multiple spots for them. And you might even be saying like, what if I don't have templates, right? Because I say the word templates and people are like, what is that, Dahlia? So I equate it to, what is the same email you send over and over and over again to your people? If you find that you send the same email that says, hi, so-and-so, thank you for contacting Dahlia Orth Photography. I'm so excited you're here. Please do A, B, and C. And you've sent that 10 times, you have an email template.
There you go. And that's the key. That's the key is if you know that you're doing something over and over, that is also your FAQs. We won't dive into that. But when you know that you're doing the same thing over and over, that's your system. And the word template is also the other word for, look how simple this is going to go. You still have to tweak it and be customizable a little bit. But that's the thing. And so one of the things I loved about what you're really bringing to this new view on systems is that you're saying, don't wait to get set up. Like, don't wait until you need one. Everybody can use one at the beginning. So if you're newer listeners listening in and through this COVID, you've maybe thought, okay, I want to dive into opening a wedding planning, or I want to dive into opening online websites. Let's think about all the creative things you can do. Start now. So now we're going to put you on the block. We're going to put you on the block of the, and for full disclosure, she's not roughed by any single person here. She's not being paid by any single person. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have her come. So where do I start first? Do I start with, I gather all the things that I have. I know email and everything else, but then I'm inundated with Honeybooks. I'm into the Sabo. What's a place to start? And I also, listeners, she also tells you that it's okay that you may not like one when you start, and that they're all not going to do everything for you. You heard her say that. So how do we start first if we're just trying to do it on our own and we spend hours on the internet and we realize, oh my gosh, I could have just called you and had this done. Let's give the basic overflow. Where do I start and how do I know what I need?
So I would even take a bigger step back from that, actually, because oftentimes I sit with people and they're like, well, I don't have A, B, and C in place. And I'm like, okay, let's take a step back. Because you can't necessarily, like, you can have these things set up, but until you know your client experience process really, really well, it's kind of like, it doesn't really add value to it. Like, you're just kind of like, here's my email template on this, and here's my contract on that. But if you don't actually have like a place for it to go, you're just handing me a template, right? And so I would even encourage somebody as the very, very first step. And what I always explain with the client experience process is, what do you want your people to like feel in your, what do you want their experience to be? Like, for me in my business, I always want people to feel warm, welcomed, invited. Like, I'm like sitting at, like, having a coffee chat with you. Like, I am just like, we are already friends and like, we've just met, So like, those are very specific things that I want people to experience when they are invited into my business. And I'm like, hey, like, let's have this conversation. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by this. So knowing like that is a huge piece. And I feel like that's often an overlooked piece. Like, people are like, oh, like, I add all this value in this way, but like, how do you make someone feel when they come to your business? It's a really important piece. So I would even take a step back before I say, hey, like, have your email templates and have your contracts and have your invoices and all of these things in one place. Write out your experience. Like, write out what you want somebody to experience in your business from the time they hit submit to your contact form all the way to the point that that you're asking them for a review. So as a photographer, I often work with people who are like, okay, we send an email that says, thanks for contacting us. Then if they don't get back to you, maybe you send a follow-up email. And then you say, I'm so excited to work with you. here's your contract, sign the contract, right? So like there's every single step of the process is accounted for, and you should really know like the back of your hand.
Right, exactly.
Oftentimes, yeah, I work with people who are like, well, we do this step and then there's that step, and I think we can do that here. And I'm like, no, like you need to be able to like tell me this verbatim, right? So that's a really, really huge step that I think oftentimes people are like, I just want to set my templates up, but I'll say to them, well, tell me about your client experience. Tell me about what your people experience when they come into your business, and walk me through that whole process. And sometimes you're like, I don't know.
Well, and don't you think too that that's how we have to step back? And you talk about going backwards, is how do we feel when we do business with somebody else? Like everybody doesn't like to go to the car dealer and buy a car. Why? Because it's usually a crappy experience and you're going to spend a lot of money, right? And it's the negotiation. Or you don't like to go sit at the doctor's office because the appointment's at 3 and you never get into 4:30. So what all happened to get to that spot? And we know as creatives, a lot of what we do is it's more of, I need you to do this because I can't do this. Instead of I have to have you. Like our services aren't always a need. They're more of a want, a white glove. And then you also stated right in there, so I send an email out and say, hey, here you go. Thanks for doing it. And you don't come back. Do you know that every listener's with a system would have reminded that client, hey, we haven't heard back from you.
Yeah.
So when I say you're leaving money on the table because you're not automated, now we're going to go into where I bet your ears are perked up because now we've talked about money. So you heard exactly what she said. So now let's just say we know we're going to do this. Without going crazy in all the differences, but there are differences from HoneyBook to DeSabo. Do you recommend that on their own, they just look at some things they like, take a trial and see what they like before hiring somebody like you, just to get a start? And then on that, when they hire somebody like you could probably narrow down through your questionnaires and everything, which platform would be better for them to use?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because part of the service offering that my team and I have is we actually consider what your personality is in your system, because I think it's an often overlooked piece that you can't use you have to marry the two. You and your system have to work together, right? So it has to work for you and your business. And so I always say that, but oftentimes we think, well, it worked for that person, so it must work for me, but like you're a completely different person than that person.
Right.
Or you think, well, I like this system, but it's not working for your business. And so like that won't work either, right? It has to marry the two. And so HoneyBook and Dubsado, they are two great platforms. And the biggest difference I see with them is simplicity. So when I talk to someone, I say, hey, tell me about your personality. Do you like having like flexibility with features? Do you like design elements? Do you like having a little bit more control on the back end? Or would you rather have a simple approach? So a Dubsado will give you more of those flexibility, like in features, and it'll give you more design elements. It's like prettier, like aesthetically behind the scenes. Like you can just do a lot more with it. Whereas HoneyBook though is a really, really simple one. So, it still has all those features in there, but it doesn't necessarily give you as much flexibility, but it accomplishes what you needed to accomplish. And it's really simple for people to learn. Whereas Dubsado gives you a little bit more of an intuitive experience, but you're going to have a lot bigger of a learning curve with that one. And so when I talk with people, you could try the trial out, or I've sat with people who have said, I tried Dubsado and I hated it. And I'm like, okay, tell me about your personality. And then they get into that more and they're like, I really just want simple. I'm like, well, that's why it didn't work. And so those are the things that I always consider with people is like, what do you like? That's a really important question, because if you're never going to use it, there's no point in me setting up a system for you, right?
And then investing that money in some place it's not, you're right back to the same point of you're losing it. And also on that, Dahlia, don't you want your client on the other end of that to have a good experience? So I'm assuming that HoneyBook and DeSabo, Tave all offer a different client experience as well. So I think that's one of the questions that we need to ask ourselves is, I like it very simple. My ideal client's probably going to fall along the lines of, they don't want to spend 95 hours going through 85 emails. I want to send them one thing and check it off. So that's another thing to look at. So now we have two tracks here. We've kind of figured out what we like. And you're going to help me through that questionnaire. So now I get to the point of, okay, I now need to set this up by myself, or I call a service like you and your girls to help set me up. I don't want to go too far on what we're going to talk about a little bit later, but the process of that is, now what do I do with this system? How do I make it work for me so I'm not just as overwhelmed?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that we wanted to solve too. And so the last few months, some of those pain points have been, well, I don't know how to use this once you're out of it, Dahlia. Once you take your hands out of it, I don't want, and so what I always say to people, especially if and this is something to consider when you're looking at anybody who does a system setup, I would say, what is their learning curve period? Right. What does that look like? Because you're right. The minute you step out of it, or the expert steps out of it, and it's like when you try to figure out how to edit your new website after you're just given it, and you're like, I have no idea how to fix this button or how to fix that link. I don't know where to find that. And so we actually offer customized training videos for all of our people who do setups with us. And it's completely customized to your system. So it's not just a stock video of hey, here's how to do A, B, and C. You know what I mean? Yeah. We are in the back end and we say, here's your system. Here's how to do A, B, C, and D. Here's how to update your contract. Here's how to update your email templates. Here's how to update your scheduler. Those are all things. And they're very, like I said, customized to your system. And then we actually offer ongoing support too in our business. And so we don't just want to leave you hanging because you're right. If you get the system and then you're I have no idea what I'm doing in here, Dahlia, we want to be able to help with that. We want to be able to say, hey, let's hop on a call and let me show you how to do it. Or let me just take a Loom video for you and screen share. Here's how you do A, B, and C. But if people don't offer that, that doesn't, I would say you're at risk of having that a really painful learning curve experience where you've just invested all this money in there and you don't know how to use it. And that's just a really sad moment.
Well, and sometimes you can't even get it. I'm not knocking anybody's system, but if I really am stuck, I sometimes might not be able to wait for the Sabo or somebody to get back to me, where my money invested in somebody like you, it might take a few minutes, but again, I'm not going to get a training or a pop-up helpy. I'm going to get, hey, Bobby, you always send this form out to your clients. What happened is this one got dropped, put it back in. They're not going to be able to do that for me because they're sitting there. All right. So now we've talked about CRMs and the importance of them. I want to go back and talk about some more automated tools, and give us some of your favorite tools. I know you're a big fan of Asana. Maybe explain to our new listeners. I know there's a couple of varieties of these, but that's another place after we get the CRM that we can have, or work separately from the CRM, that will help us automate. So tell us a little bit by why that's your favorite tool.
Yeah. So, I love Asana. I'm a huge fan. I love Asana for project management. So I feel there's categories of systems. So there's your CRM, which is your customer relationship management. And project management would be more like your Asana, Monday.com, your ClickUp, that would be or Trello, that would be another one. Then you've got your scheduling ones like Calendly and Acuity and all of those different features. And what you often find is you can actually integrate a lot of them, which I feel is something that people are how do I do that? And Zapier is a really great place for that. But I love Asana personally because I have found that it is a really great way. As my business grew and I started to grow a team, I was able to manage all of the tasks and projects in there, but it was completely separate from my client experience. So it almost gave me a place to do this is like church and state. Here is my team stuff over here. My team can access my CRM, but all of my clients are housed in my CRM. And so that's where I do all of my client facing work. And this is where all of my internal stuff is in there. But I've also done it where I've done a full system setup for a client who was a graphic designer, and all of her stuff was in Asana. And so all of her, there were links to her invoices and contracts, and she interfaced with all of her clients in Asana. So they can allow for that. It just takes a little bit more work on the back end because it can't automate as much, just because it is more set up for managing of the task rather than so it'll be reminders and stuff for you. They'll say, hey, you got A, B, and C coming up. But a CRM will give you reminders about hey, this client doesn't have this in their project, or they need this email, or you need to send this questionnaire. So those are kind of the bigger differences with those two. But yeah, I love all of them, and I'm never intimidated by a good system. I'm always how can, and one of the things too, I will say, speaking on systems, is social media platforms. That's another big one.
Right.
Tailwind is a great one to automate for Pinterest marketing. A lot of people use that. And then you've got your email marketing systems like Flowdesk and ConvertKit that can all automate things out as well. So there's so many, and I can understand why people get so overwhelmed by them so quickly.
Well, and isn't that a lot of money? Let me ask you that.
Yeah.
Let's dumb it down. I'm going to say I know nothing about these CRMs. Now I'm having Flowdesk and I'm doing Calendly. Just right there could be $25-$30. Now I've got to add in Zapier to connect it. By the time I get done before I get to CRM, and then if I have to do my social media tailwind, I could just be out $100 a month right now, just in all these little pieces.
Right.
Can a CRM help accomplish all of those things, or pieces of those things? And granted, I know every one of us don't need all those, but in a good world, in your mind, what does, again, a photographer and another creative, what do you think is the basic they need to start? And let's say they have a fairly good, some people don't even have email lists. I mean, for years, I didn't have an email list because I only wanted to do 20 weddings a year. Why do I need 500 names?
Right.
And I wasn't going to be growing my brand and team. So what is a good place to start? We need a CRM, and what else? And then if you could kind of go ahead and toss out what a budget is of that to do it yourself. And then we'll segue into the benefit of having somebody like you and spending that money in a better way.
Yeah. So I actually created a freebie on this called 6 Systems Every Photographer Needs, because everybody's always asking me that question. They're like, what do I actually need though, Dahlia? And I would say it is, you take it in bite size, right? You get your essentials in place. So an essential to me would be a CRM. Like, I think you absolutely need one to have one, just because your clients are what's going to keep your business going, right? So, and if they don't have a great experience, and if you feel like you're dropping the ball on them all the time, well, that's unfortunate, right? There's no room for getting these other systems in there if you're not caring for them well. And then, a project management one would be a great one to get for task management, or like when you're starting to grow a team and you're starting to get to a point where you want to scale your business a little bit, because again, it just separates the two out a little bit. So these are your clients over here. These are your internal things over there. And honestly, I think a lot of the social media stuff, if you want to really market a lot on Pinterest, then Tailwind is a great tool to use for that. But it's not an essential, I don't think, right away. I think you like growing your business in the beginning, through using some of those smaller platforms is essential. And then for, photographers, I always say Blog Stomp's a great one, because that expedites your blogging and galleries and all of those things. And then obviously a gallery software is great for photographers too. So those are all in that freebie. But for all creatives in and of themselves, I would say that having like a project management and a CRM is absolutely like essential. And project management, I think one will come in time. I don't think you need to have it right away, but a CRM of some sort, like, so that you can start keeping all of this stuff in order. Anyway.
No, so we'll go back. So we talked about having the CRMs and the things that we need to have in place. And like you, I agree 100%. You don't need to go all crazy. As photographers, we think we have to buy the camera, the lens, and the strap, and the whole bag. That's not going to make us a better photographer. And buying all the bells and whistles of all the things that are out there aren't. We need to automate and be simple, because exactly what you said, if things are going through the cracks and we have clients who say, I didn't get my questionnaire, come on. We made this wonderful experience for them and they booked us. Let's be organized so that on that day we can be photographers. I'm sorry, I'm just talking photographers, but look at how, when you do all these things, when you get to the wedding day, they're like, oh my gosh, everything's so great. It was so smooth. My experience with them was seamless. I didn't have 75 different emails to open. They didn't ask me to do all this stuff. I was able to go through and check it and get it done when I needed it. And then if something was missing, they knew it. That's what we were talking about what a good CRM. And I agree. That's where we need to start. The other stuff will trickle down, because it's going to be expensive if you go crazy and you do this. So just ballpark that. If you were going to do the things you wanted to do, what kind of investment is somebody looking right? Yeah.
So, you always got to consider in there like your annual fees and your monthly fees as well. I always say if you can pay it annually, just take care of it, because obviously you save money that way. But I would say, Asana is free unless you want to upgrade to premium. But usually I find that people don't need a premium account until they get into a higher level of their business, like managing a team. And sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's going to help and pay for it too. As your team grows, then you want to find a system that you can grow into. You want to find a system that has enough room for you to continue to grow. So, getting all those things right now, will help you get there. But as you grow, then you're like, okay, if it's 20, 30 more bucks a month, that's one client to get that and to get that happen.
Right.
And so that's the great part on that.
Yeah. So absolutely. And so, I think that's what you just what you said. You'll grow into it over time, and it'll be something that you'll be like, oh, I can't live without this system. Like, I think you'll start finding that as you start to grow in your business and the features that these systems have, it's just a huge help to you. But initially, the investment of it all, I would say, is probably going to be, I would say, to budget maybe like $150 to $200 a month for everything. When you consider like HoneyBook, after your first year is usually $40. Dubsado is $35 a month. So like right there, that's a cost.
Right.
And then, Tailwind, I think it's like $100 annually for Tailwind. Yeah, and so, and the premium for Asana is, I think, a little over $100. And that depends on how many team members you have. So like when you start to factor in how much it could cost you monthly, just over budgeting for that. Right. So you can use these tools if you want, is better than saying like, okay, I underestimated what it was going to cost me.
And then your frustration sets in, because as photographers, I know a lot of us like to do culling, but some of us don't. So then we invest in photo mechanic, and then we invest in shoe proof. But we have to have a way to deliver these products that are making it simple to do what we need to do. And that's the part that I wanted everybody to really hear at the beginning. We have all these things as photographers that we do for the photography side of it, then we forget the client experience part of it. So yes, photographers, you were spending all this money with Shoe Proof and everybody else. And while I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about those, I mainly want to talk about the system. So now we know. Here's my biggest thing. I'm still overwhelmed. It's $200 a month now. My time is so much more. I can't figure out how to do it. So you're going to hear Bobby say this, as she always says this. Your time is something you cannot get back, people. You add more value to your business by serving your clients in a better way. So I look at everything I have to do when I am asked to do something, when I'm asked to go on a podcast. Will it bring value to my business, and will it serve my clients? That's what I want to be. And whether I'm starting 40 years later, that's how I built my business. So even now, where I could figure out how to do something on my own, you know what? I'm still better serving my clients by doing something else. Yeah. This is why, one of the reasons you're going to love what I'm going to say. What she has on her website, guys, you can do big things, beautiful girl, and you deserve good things, beautiful girl. And this is why. She has got a program, guys, that is called Ticket to Freedom. So you heard about some of the frustrations and some of the money and juggling. What if I told you this lady, this beautiful girl, can help you do big things? I want you to take this next little bit of time and walk us through a little bit about Ticket to Freedom and why. Yes, guys, it comes with an investment. It's going to be an investment, but invest in yourself and your business, because that's what we have to get to grow. We have to learn to scale. And at some point, the work-life balance, this photographers, this wedding industry, it's going to beat you up and you're going to get burnt out. That's why somebody like Dahlia and this system, when I looked at this system, like, where was this 5 years ago for me? I would have loved it. So let's talk about Ticket to Freedom, who it's for, who can benefit, and kind of just how it works. And we're going to link everything back to you guys so you'll be able to get to her. But let's hear it from the beautiful creator of this program. And so, again, we're honest kind of conversations here. That's we dig in deep and we talk about it's painful and struggle. But if you're crying because you're frustrated and you want to give up, invest in having somebody that you can walk through and be that person that's going to hold your hand. You want businesses to succeed just as much as I do. That's one of the reasons we're kindred spirits. I knew that from the get-go. I cheer creatives on, and that's what I want them to do. So let's dive into Ticket to Freedom and share with us. I love the name. So tell us all about it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was like, oh, what a great intro.
You can use that on your site now.
Yeah, I was like, woo! So Ticket to Freedom, it is like my baby, my labor of love over here. I have, so I will leave it this. It is not just about a system set up for us. It's about impacting lives with Ticket to Freedom. Yep. And that is what we take pride in most, because it has been the stories of our people that have really shown us man, these are real pain points that people experience. I walk through them personally, and it needs to be different, and I don't want other people to experience it. So that statement, you can do big things, beautiful girl, came from a friend of mine. I was in a really hard season of business, and my good friend Jenny Maroney, she just encouraged me with like, you can always do the hard things, beautiful girl. And I was like, oh, like it's just what my heart needed in that time.
Right.
And I was reminded, like, man, we can all do big and beautiful things, and we were created for big and beautiful things, but you can't get there without a really good system in place. And so my experience came actually from my time in Belgium, because it was that moment where I was like, oh my goodness, like I can just leave my business and it's going to be fine. And my clients are cared for. And this is incredible. You know, it's that like pinnacle moment you shoot
Right.
for. And so between those two experiences where I was like, okay, this was my ticket to freedom. Like that's how I described it. It was the thing that I believe is your ticket to have the freedom and flexibility you desire in your business. You don't need another system. You don't necessarily need another person. You don't need something fancy in place. You just need something that's going to work for you and your business, and it's going to care for your clients well, because your clients are what's going to keep coming back to your business, right? And so Ticket to Freedom was born out of that. And it's been really cool because initially it started with photographers. So I spent a lot of summer with photographers because I'm a photographer myself. So I can really understand the pain points that come with photography and, you know, like all the things that are involved with caring for a client from point A to point B. But what I quickly realized is it's not just for photographers. So we've actually expanded it pretty quickly to many other industries in the creative circle. And we've done now successfully, we've done system setups for interior designers.
Yep.
We've done them we're working on one for people who own a bakery. You know, it is expanded beyond photography because it works.
Because it's a system.
It's a system. Yeah, and they can really they can go across multiple platforms. So it's not just like HoneyBook is just for photographers, or Dubsado is just for, you know, designers, or, you know what I mean? They're not exclusive.
Right.
And so the thing is, we take the time to really get to know you, to hear your pain points. And interestingly enough, we actually have a guy on our team who's really good with these too, because I'm like, guys experience this too.
Right.
You know, it is, a lot of photographers are women, but I was like, man, I want to make sure that like we are hitting like the masses of people, because what I learned is, as a photographer, yes, this affects me. This impacts other people that I do life with and I have rubbed shoulders with in the business world, but it's not just limited to them. And so that is what I think is most exciting, is like every person that comes to System Strategy Academy and like wants to learn about Ticket to Freedom is like, it's almost like a blank slate for us. It's like, oh, like what can we create for you? Because your system is completely different from, or your system and your business is completely different from mine.
Right.
And that I think is the most exciting. And then in the middle of all that, we really try to be very strategic with how we encourage you and also help you scale your business. So if like we've had people who have successfully launched masterminds in weeks because we've been able to set up a really good system for them. And for me, like, I love the stories of hearing like mamas with their littles who get all this time back because they're like, I have a great system in place. So it's the success stories that we're like most excited about, because we get to the end of a 2-week process and people always say, can you really do it all in 2 weeks? And I'm like, we sure can. And I always say to people, I'm like, are you ready to change your life in 2 weeks?
Right.
It's so crazy. Yeah. And so we do it. We've done it successfully for a number of creatives at this point. And so the best part about it is having people come back saying like, wow, why didn't I do it sooner?
Well, and we touched on this a little bit, Dahlia. It's if somebody says it takes an hour, you'll take an hour. If somebody says, oh, this will take a year, I mean, you'll take a year. But
sure.
the key about this is you have to be brave enough, and those that listen in regularly, thank you. But I always say this, you have to be brave enough to suck. You have to be brave enough to know that, you know what I'm doing isn't working right now. And it's scary. It would be scary for somebody who is it is upset and they, you know, but you're at the point where you're like, forget it. I don't want to take it. I can't be a photographer.
Yeah.
It isn't about not having talent for photography. It's about, this is not your strong suit. It's above your zone of genius. So you have to be brave enough to call somebody up like you and say, this isn't working. What do I need? And then be open and hold space for the fact that, yes, this is a fee, but for 2 weeks, you're going to say, well, right off the bat, here is something that isn't working. And yet you swore that that was what was working. And with moments, because you have a new set of eyes, and I do think it might be, I do think for a photographer, I would appreciate another photographer, but you're also coming to this from the spot of knowing that you're not like everybody else. And the fact that you're able to expand this to other genres in our area. And that's what I want listeners to hear. The hardest step is to take a step and say, hey, I need help.
Sure.
And this is a little part where I sometimes preach a little bit, but it is okay to ask for help. I mean, we got into this because we wanted, as photographers, I wanted my superpower to be, I could preserve these moments for somebody. I wanted to be able to be my legacy, that when I'm dead and gone, and those that are in front of my camera, and I'm always privileged, when they pass away, somebody has something to hold down.
Yeah.
If I didn't ask for help in the other areas of emails and bookkeeping, and we don't change our own oil in our car, people. Let's be real. I mean, we don't put our own roofs on.
Yeah, you hire an expert.
Exactly. So we want to be hired as a professional.
Yeah.
This is your opportunity. And the fact that you heard her tell you that it's customized 2 weeks, she's going to get you in this system that's going to help you and not leave you hanging. And let's take a step further. After I finish this course, am I able to keep you on as a role in my business? Can you be that additional VA? What other services after Ticket to Freedom can I have you stay on with me for?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think, I feel like my experiences the last few years have shaped into what it is today, where I know that, I've worked behind the scenes with a number of business owners now to know, they don't want to feel left hanging
right.
because you want to be able to use it. So so we actually offer 3, 6, or 12-month ongoing support packages. And so it's basically you get access to our team. It's almost like, I kind of equate it to Apple Care. Yep. When you when you don't need it, you don't think you need it until you need it.
Right.
And you're like, oh gosh, now I need this. I wish I had it. You know what I mean? And we wanted to solve that problem. We wanted to come alongside and say, hey, we don't leave you hanging after it, because, I've walked with people who have said well, they gave me all this stuff and gave me a little a PDF or something. And now I don't know what I'm doing. I don't actually use it. And so that was the biggest difference for us. It was, we want to create something that you will use, you will love. And if you ever need help with it, we've got your back. And that's the hope, and that's the goal, is being able to talk with clients now who are hey, Dahlia, can you help me with A, B, and C? And I'm yeah, no problem. Let's figure it out. Even, a few months later, I just had someone last week email me about a honeybook issue she was having. And she's like, can you help? And I said, sure. And we got it done in the same day. So those are the things that I look at Ticket to Freedom as what's different, and on top of that, being able to successfully help multiple industries. It's not just exclusive to photographers.
Right.
At first, the easy thing for me was to just make it for photographers, because that's what I'm good at and what I'm most comfortable in. And then I started to expand it a little bit more and started to see, gosh, the same strategies we use for photographers work for multiple industries across the board. And it's completely tailored to you and your business, and nobody else will have one like you.
Well, exactly, because you're what sets you apart. That's the podcast that dropped this morning that I did, was where I was reminding everybody that you are what set your business apart. And I don't think your honeybook should be set up like somebody else's, or your DeSivo, or your Asana, anything, shootproof, nothing. It should all reflect you. And I think what the entrepreneurs in our industry will find out is, by having somebody like you, you're going to quickly understand what will elevate you, maybe away from the rest of the pack. And I don't believe in competition. I believe that if there's competition, that means whatever you're servicing or what your products are, it means there's a need for it. Sure. And we should be our own competition. But I think what happens is, when you get these systems in place, you will watch what you do. If you're an interior designer, watch your interior designs grow, and your photography will get better, and your bakery get better, because you're not worried so much about, where's that invoice? Did I get paid? What did we do? And then if you have somebody like Dahlia and her team, imagine a year from now that you're ready to add a new
Yeah.
bakery person, or you're ready to bring on a new hair and makeup person.
Yep.
You now have a system in place that has allowed you some financial freedom to grow and get somebody and bring them on board. And the onboarding on that will be something that you will have in place because they've helped you do this. And I think that's one of the things that I really respected and admired when I started looking at your website and diving in. I'm like, oh man, I just really want to talk to you, because nobody else is really doing that for across the board for anybody that wants to do something. And let's talk about how important it is to get that life work balance back. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
It'll cost you some money, but your time, guys.
Yeah.
Your time.
Yeah. So I'll speak a little bit on the investment side of it, because a lot of times people come to me and they're like, oh, that's what it is.
Right.
And, I look at it this way. I try to not to necessarily equate it to something, but I've been a virtual assistant. I actually had someone ask me this, one of my Ticket to Freedom clients, when she was kind of like feeling it out with me. She said, well, couldn't I just hire a VA to do everything for me? And like, wouldn't that be less money? And I said, you could. And so she didn't realize I was a VA at the time. And I said, well, let me speak into what I know of being a virtual assistant.
Right.
And that is, it probably will take more time. They may or may not position themselves as an expert. You may save some money, but it'll probably, like, there's a learning curve with that too. Like,
right.
The VA has to learn, what you are doing in your business and how it all works and get all your stuff. And like, we have refined and honed in this process very well. And we have a great team of experts who can do it really efficiently. And so I think that's what you're paying into, is like the speed, the quality, the consistency with it. Like, that we have done it really well for other people, and you want to experience the same thing, right? It's like, well, I want to know what it's like to have this system in my business so that I can get freedom back. And so that's, why, like, you're paying into not only the experience, the customization, but also like the speed and the experts, like all of those things, versus, necessarily paying a little bit less. And it may take a lot longer, and it may not be done.
Well, that's my point. You can Google you can Google the crap out of all this, right, and put $10 here and $30 here and take this course for $99, not knocking anybody courses, because I have some of those too, but but the done for you stuff. So you could spend the same amount of money and have no result, or spend this money and at least have somebody that holds you accountable for the result. Right. And you can hold them accountable for, well, I'm not understanding that, explain it differently. Just going out and trying to do, you guys, we never went out, photographers, you didn't go buy a camera just because you saw it. You actually did some research and you figured out. You don't go buy yes, you might go buy the red sports car because it's pretty, but I guarantee you still take it for a test drive and go, this does not fit me. So when you make these investments, you're investing in yourself, and you've got to invest in yourself first. I'm so excited. I can't wait for you guys to jump. We're going to have the links in the show notes. I want you guys to go to her website. I want you guys to dive in. I want you to she answered so many of the questions that came up for you guys that are coming in. I want you to know that she's there. You email her, start working with her. Find out the simple question, guys. You can't even get the no if you don't ask the yes. You send her an email and say, this is where I am. She's going to help guide you through this. She's going to figure out what's the good places. And when Ticket to Freedom opens, I think we have a lot of listeners that need to be in there. That need this extra step. Remind everybody where they can find you, even though in show notes, but let them hear it as they're driving. Remind everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at dahlia.orth, O-R-T-H, and you'll find information about system strategy there and being a VA and all of that fun stuff. And then the systemstrategyacademy.com, and then there's a button on there that goes to a Ticket to Freedom sales page, and that dives in deeper about what Ticket to Freedom is, how we can help, who's it right for, like if you're ready for it or not, like all of those good questions. And then if you ever wanted to reach out and chat personally with me, it's just Dahlia at the systemstrategyacademy.com. And like Bobby said, I would love to dive in deeper about like, what are your pain points? Yep. Where can we help? Like you said, don't wait until you figure out you need one, especially with everything going on in 2021 and all the rescheduling. You can't afford it. There's going to be a lot of like shifts and moving and like all the things that have to happen because they didn't get to happen in 2020. And you're going to need a system. I've worked with wedding photographers who have over 40 clients, right? And It's just, it's time, my friend. And so, like you said, invest in yourself. And I would love to chat with you more.
And that's the key. We're going to end on that positive note, but that's, guys, We're all going to be so busy next year. Take this time to learn all these things on your own. Get familiar with it. You need to know a little bit about it. But isn't it time, after everything we've been through, that you could sit back and say, man, I didn't get to go on to Disney World, or I didn't get to go on this vacation. I'm deserving of it because I've worked and I serve. Find that time. And while we get ready for booking season and everything else, let the systems work. And when you go to her website, she talked about this earlier, the experience, you guys, all the questions are there. Remember, she's trying to help you offer that experience to your client. When you go to her website, she answers the questions so you know who she is, you know what she does, and you know who she serves. That is what we want a website to do, convert. Let her help you convert your systems. Let her help you automate. I tell you guys all the time here that you are what set your business apart. And if you want a sustainable business, we have to sometimes change. I was one for a long time that didn't make automation and do things, but you have to make these changes to stay relevant, to stay current, and for you to get the joy back in what you do. We go back to remember why we started. I cannot thank you enough for sharing with our listeners. I'm going to have you back. I'm telling you right now, you're going to be back with some more things. Listeners, until then, remember, you are what set your business apart. Go out there, keep being yourself, be Fabo. Do what you do because you know how to do it, and serve, and you can build a profitable career, and you can have a business and a career with purpose and be profitable. Can I get an amen to that, folks? Yes, we can. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time.
For more information about today's show, check out the show notes on the BeFabo blog at bobbybrinkman.com, along with some offers for our listeners. You'll also find information about how to work with Bobby as a coach, a speaker, or for workshops. She'd love to collaborate with you. Oh, and don't forget, subscribe to the podcast to keep motivation coming to your earbuds. Be Fabo.